presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate. I am one of two hosts, Dominick TJ. To my right, well, my right, I don't know how it looks on the screen over there.
I'm here. That's all that matters.
TJ Corman is here, and he's got his Mickey Mouse shirt on for tonight, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate, part of the Dogs Media Network, sponsored by Dano's Seasoning. Use the promo code below, Doggos, DAWGGOS, to get you some of that good Dano's Seasoning. TJ and I do like the stuff. We do swear by it and believe in it. It is good stuff. Not just saying it. We are actual users of the product. So getting into, yeah, absolutely. I keep using it just like on the most random of things, by the way. Like I said, wraps and everything. I put some on, what did I just have the other day? Oh, I had a barbecue sandwich, and I had already seasoned it. I put a little extra. Put a little
because why not? Because why not? Why wouldn't you do that?
It improves it, right? Like you just spice up anything. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal stuff. Definitely give it a shot if you guys have not as of yet. We will jump straight into our review section, I guess I should say. And let me try and make this full screen here. There we go. That's what we want.
Oh, so yeah. First what a game.
Yeah, and TJ almost went to this game with me and his son. You were coaching essentially, right?
Yeah. My son plays Little League football, and so weren't able to. So we would have been late getting into the game, and I wouldn't have wanted to, hold you up and that kind of thing. Which you probably could have sent me the tickets, but it would have just been a lot trying to get across from Wake Forest all the way across town to essentially carry.
Yeah, especially on a game day.
Right. That would have been hard to do. So,
although I guess traffic should have been minimal by the time the game was really starting, because that's a big tailgate culture over there. So most people were there pretty early. I was impressed. Obviously, you and I both have experience going to app games and seeing the tailgate there. This was my first real tailgate experience at NC State. Mm-hmm. They do it pretty well. I mean, they've got some people with some money.
I've been to a couple NC State games. My uncle, LeVar Fisher, was outstanding linebacker, All-American over at NC State. So I've been fortunate enough to go to a lot of games in the past few years, and they do tailgate in the right way, for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we did, my son and I did meet up with Russ Livingood from the Thundercast podcast, and if we got any Marshall viewers or fans checking us out for either the first time or maybe a second try, I mean, you guys got some good guys putting on a hell of a podcast for you there. Russ and his wife were awesome. His wife even applied some extra sunscreen to my son because he didn't have any on his legs, and he was asking me about it. And I'm like, dude, I don't have any more sunscreen. He left it all in the truck. So just really phenomenal people. Actually, every Herd fan that I ran across from, I didn't have like the longest interactions with very many of them, but I did talk to some people who had come into town on Thursday to take make a whole weekend of it, and really, really phenomenal people. Interactions between the two fan bases overall were great, but this game, as far as the game goes, 48-41, phenomenal scoreboard lighting up, all kinds of scores and all kinds of different variations, but very sloppy on both sides for both teams, really. I don't know how much you got to check out because, like we said, you were coaching, so you got home. You definitely did not see the beginning of this.
No.
I don't know how much in the end you got to see, but any thoughts? I mean, I called it for a Marshall victory because I thought this is the first time this would have been their sixth try to try and get their first victory in Raleigh, and they came up just short. So there's some kind of curse going on. I don't know what Marshall fans want to name that, but
I don't either. But I will tell you this: I mean, they played a lot better. Well, so here's the thing, and actually, my wife and I were talking about it. I think it was Friday night, as a matter of fact, and she talked about Marshall's undefeated and. NC State hadn't played terribly well, right? Over the past couple games. Quarterback's been very wishy-washy. So she actually predicted them to win. I picked State to win. I wouldn't have been, I think we talked about this, wouldn't have been surprised either way. Couple calls, and we'll talk about them as we, get into some things here that didn't necessarily go to Herd's way. But for the most part, I think, they played them tough. 41 points, you look at it this way for me. You score 41 points, that's good enough to win.
Yes.
Your defense, anything over 35 points in college football, you should win. If your defense is allowing that, but then you're not playing, great defense. And so for me, 315 yards, passing, I mean, it's incredible, So I think they did what they were supposed to do on offense, certainly not on defense.
Yeah. On the other side of the ball, Morris comes in for his first game for State and throws 3 interceptions. Only goes for 265, which isn't terrible either because he's got 4 touchdowns to go with it, but 3 interceptions.
Yeah, but it's not 315.
Right, and you're talking about this team still winning. So I mean, the defenses were the problem in this one. Like you said, some questionable calls. I was there live, so going back, some of them were a little more obvious when you go back and watch the film. But we do have the one coming up that we still have a question about ourselves, which could have been kind of a game changer there. But regardless, NC State comes away with the victory, 48-41, and brings the Herd's undefeated streak to an end there in Raleigh. The next game, probably the game. Well, I don't know. This game was great that we just talked about, but possibly the game of the day in the Sun Belt, Texas State, Louisiana.
Cajuns how about TJ Finley?
Yeah.
Going nuts.
TJ Finley going nuts. And honestly, it looked early on like Texas State could be in charge of this one. I mean, they were up 20-7. I mean, that's obviously not insurmountable as we see here at the score anyways. But, you're feeling pretty comfortable and confident even on the road there that, you're taking it to the Cajuns, and then Cajuns just flip the script, come away with the victory. Zion Chris didn't have anything that lit up the scoreboard. I mean, 205. He didn't even throw more than 17 times, but he did have 3 touchdowns. So
I was going to say they threw it when they needed to, goal line, red zone type of deal. So they didn't really let them get off. They had a really good, run game, obviously. But, I mean, TJ Finley stole the show. I mean, 326 yards is insane. That's nuts. But, not always the outcome that you're looking for, even if the stats say you should be. So, says a lot about what the Cajuns offense was able to do, especially in those red zone situations, being able to take advantage of it. I know for Texas State, a lot of times they get caught up, and we get caught up watching them from the 20 to the 20, right? Because they make really, really splash plays 20 from the 20, and then they get in the red zone, and it's like, field goals aren't going to win you games in our conference.
No,
because our conference, everybody can score touchdowns. And when you're trading touchdowns for field goals, I don't care how many stats how many yards you have, it's not going to be, that's not going to have the outcome that you want. So,
and I think a sneaky player so far this year, and we'll see how the Texas State Bobcats end up for the year, because that's going to determine a lot of this, unfortunately, even though it's supposed to be based on player performance. But Madi, the running back over there at Texas State, goes for 188, only 1 touchdown. But this kid is just phenomenal. I mean, we've seen him return kicks for touchdowns. He's running all over the place, running all over everybody. So be on the lookout for this kid. He's going to be sneaky if Texas State's record doesn't show that. But his name should be on the tip of everybody's tongue, because this kid is a phenomenal talent out there running around for the Bobcats. Well, one that wasn't very close. We had the Troy Trojans just really step on the necks of the Red Wolves there. We thought, the local boy, Kernersville, North Carolina native, Jalen Rayner for the Red Wolves would maybe continue some really nice play and keep this one respectable and close, but that is not what happened. As we've just said, scoring more than 31, 35 points for a game, you're usually going to win. Well, it also goes that way when your defense is playing lights out as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that Troy offense is really rounded to form. It's not their biggest test. Obviously, we've seen Arkansas State still down a little bit, even though they did look a little bit better offensively once Rayner took the reins. They brought back down to earth a little bit in this one. I guess not really much to say here in this one. Pretty obvious what happened.
I will say Kamani Vidal had a whale of a running game. 245 rushing yards. That'll win you some ball games. That'll do it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And he needed one because he was kind of kept in check by that James Madison defense earlier in the year. So
he was. Well, and a lot of people are kept in check by that James Madison defense. They are hellacious on that, especially that front four. I mean, they come at you and they come at you in waves and they substitute really well. I know this in the James Madison segment. However, those boys are good. That's for sure.
Yeah, they are very talented. I think they're going to be. Well, we talked earlier if we thought James Madison or Marshall might be the first team looking at a ranking so far this year, and
right.
Marshall's kind of fallen off there.
I was going to say it may not be Marshall now.
Yeah, not a terrible loss to NC State, I don't think by any means, but a very winnable game that you look back on and you say you could have and should have won. I think.
Right. Well, and I think it'll depend also on how NC State ends up finishing out in the ACC, right? Because
that's correct.
That. Carolina right now is seems like the class of the ACC. Clemson's starting to round back into form. Obviously, Florida State has got they're in a completely different division. But it looks like to my eye, Carolina is where it's at. So I mean, you're talking NC State might finish 4th or 5th just in their division of the ACC. So
and shockingly enough, the ACC is actually pretty dominant so far this year. I think I heard
they're tough.
4-1 against the SEC and out of conference. Now, you'd have to go look at it, what exactly those SEC schools were. I think one of them was Vanderbilt. So you're not going to get any points for that. But
no.
your record still stands at 4-1 against the SEC.
I was going to say you are who your record says you are. So
yeah,
if you're 4-1, you're 4-1.
Yep, absolutely. And I think we've got just one more game. Oh no, we have 2 more games. My apologies.
Yep.
But another one that there's not going to be a whole lot to cover on, as the South Alabama Jaguars hammer the Warhawks 55-7. Just
see, and this is the thing, and we talked about this last week. I said to you, I don't know which South Alabama team I'm going to get.
Exactly.
Right? I never know from week to week who they're going to be. And it seems like now, or this week, or I guess now last week, they came out and were completely dominant, right? And they were who we wanted them to be or who we thought they were going to be in, the West bracket, right? Came out like gangbusters, ready to play football and executed really at all phases. Offense, defense, special teams, everybody showed up. I mean, Carter Bradley had 303 passing yards. I mean, they did everything right. And then there's games where it's, I don't, it doesn't even look like the same school. So I don't know I don't know who South Alabama is.
Right. Yeah.
So hopefully they're this team.
Yeah. Hey, look at this. Hail Southern. Not yet. We'll get there, Blake. Thanks for joining the show. They do have a matchup. I know we both looked at it a little bit. James Madison and Georgia Southern is going to be a hell of a game. We are going to get to that one.
I cannot wait to watch that.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. And I think we all remember what happened last year. James Madison went down there, ranked, and took the L in Statesboro, which they've got a freaking penchant for doing, right? Because App State took their first ever ranking into Statesboro and then lost it in the first week they ever had it. So, anyways. We will get to that one, but Webb goes for 100 yards. Calvin Lacey, 156 and a touchdown. Just a phenomenal game for the Jaguars. Like you said, just depends on which team decides to show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the last game, now that it is certainly the last game of the week prior.
Closer game than I expected in here.
Yes.
For sure. I thought Old Dominion would be a little bit more dominant than they were. A win is a win, right? It's
right.
I think Jalen Hurts said it best. When did we stop celebrating wins? So, give them their flowers. But I did not think – but this goes back to your point too, right? Kind of like the South Alabama thing. Southern, we don't know who they are sometimes. We expected them to actually be a little bit better this year than they're putting on. But then, a game like this one – they actually come out and play some great defense. So, ODU came away with the win, and it
looked like Southern Miss might have had this one to start off with 10-0 pretty quick in the first quarter,
Yep.
and we'll get to this again. Another clip we're going to break down. Could have been 17-0 or 17-7. I can't remember exactly how it would have worked out. I think it would have been 17-0 though. Anyway, We'll take a look at that clip here in a minute. We'll know for sure. But could have been a totally different game had that call not been changed. That was Mims returning his second punt for the day, which ended up not counting. But phenomenal effort by Mims. I mean, it was a heck of a play. However, Old Dominion, man, I was going to relate this, and I don't know how much Sunbelt basketball you watched or did watch last year. I watched a lot more than I ever have, obviously doing this Sunbelt stuff as we do now. Old Dominion's basketball team, for whatever reason last year, wasn't necessarily the tops in the Sunbelt, but they were incredibly difficult to put away. Like every game with them was close, down to the wire, came down to, who scored the last bucket type of thing. That's how this football team for ODU feels like this year, is like they're not the best tein.
No,
they haven't shown to be the best.
Hard.
Exactly. They're not giving up and they're not giving in. And it's just impressive that they keep grinding. I mean, let's say 17-0 could have been the score in this one. But, they get a little luck maybe or the right call, however you want to kind of call that. And then they come away with just battling back with that effort and winning this game 17-13. So ODU continues to impress both of us. So we know that
for sure. I've changed my mind. You got a believer out of me, ODU.
Yeah. And Southern Miss is the opposite end of the spectrum. I thought they could be really good this year, and they're obviously not. So we
both thought they'd be at least, respectable. And not that they're not respectable, but better than what their record says they are right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've not played well at all. So.
Yep. And I'll put Blake's comment back up here again because, unfortunately for the two of us, he's going to like this. We're not going to like this too much. But Coastal Carolina takes down App State in Boone last night. Unfortunately, I was there. It was a great atmosphere, man. I mean, Tuesday night, packed house. I know people are sharing some stuff and showing some of the aluminum. I'm like, well, go look at the grass hill. I mean, it was literally, if you go try and walk around from one side of the stadium to the other, it's not easy. It's very difficult because of how many kids and parents and young kids are out there. So, yes, there was empty bleacher seats because most people don't want to sit on the cold bleachers up real high when it could be kind of windy. TJ and I both
and also, like you said,
Boone
if you got kids, because I know when I'm taking my son, we're going to the Georgia Southern game. He's going to want to throw the football around, so we'll probably be back on the hill, messing around. I mean, he'll probably first half, and then you know how kids are. He's 6. He's going to get bored.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Well, okay. So this is the big play. This is the big play.
Blake, I've had enough of you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I told him, though, I will say, I was interacting with him before the show. I was telling him, hey, well, just come on. Just start sending us stuff, man. Talk your trash, man. Talk your junk.
Absolutely. Listen, you got thick skin. I've got 3 rings. This isn't my team. I don't have a dog in this. Well, that's not true. I do have a huge dog in this fight. However, it's not as personal for me as it used to be. That said, it's still – the taste of defeat is awful, man, and especially the way we lost. I mean, that fumble, it was, absolutely. First of all, to fight back the way that we did, because here's the one thing. We played awful first half of defense. Right. It was absolutely deplorable. And even there were some spots in the second half our defense was not very good. We let them get away with some short side of the field options, some, go balls that we'll take a look at here in just a minute, where inexplicable mistakes. I don't understand the type of mistakes, and we'll break down some game film here in just a minute from our secondary. I don't understand what they're even looking at in some of these blown coverages. So to battle back and to fight back after having been down the way that we were, props to that. But then you got to go finish, right? Defense gets a great stop. You turn around on a 63 or whatever, yard run, catch and run, and you're not being fundamentally sound. Right? Taking care of the football in open space. It's just those kinds of mistakes. And we talked about this, Monty and a bunch of the guys, Devin, everybody that was up here the other night. We talked about this same kind of thing. It's the mental mistakes and the big play errors that have hurt us all year. We've not been sound all the way around for an entire football game at any point in the season. should have beat Carolina, should have obviously beat Coastal last night. I mean, at this point we should be 5-0.
Yeah, very realistic take. I mean, just like we said with it's the same thing as the Marshall game. You look at the score and you say, well, they were down 14 and they cut it to 7 and they were trying an onside kick. They were never going to win, kind of thing. No, go back and watch the game and tell me that they didn't have a chance to win. They had every opportunity to win that game. Now the scoreboard says it was a little more lopsided than it looks.
And it actually was.
Same thing with a lot of these app games. A couple games for the Sun Belt teams in general. Same thing with Georgia Southern, actually, up at Wisconsin. If Bryn plays a sharper game and doesn't have, what would we say, 5 interceptions, 6 turnovers by the team in total, I think overall, if you cut that in half, you've got a game that could be at least a 1 or 2 score game at the most, instead of what it looked like, which was a lot further away. But they were moving the ball. The Eagles were moving the ball on the Badgers without a whole lot of trouble. It's just, down in the red zone a couple times, just some turnovers. So, yeah,
that'll make it break you.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, unfortunate for us. Great for Coastal Carolina and their fans. They seem to be, I mean, I don't think it was a large number, but I was impressed with how many people they brought up. I mean, sure.
They showed up. I was obviously in my living room and not there. But as the camera was panning around, I saw some teal.
Oh, yeah.
So it worked. Yeah, it was good. I like to see when fans in other schools travel like that. I mean, because here's the other thing, too. I mean, just in the SEC, like we didn't, we want schools to show and represent themselves. So
right, yeah, and I agree with I agree a little bit with Blake's comment there. He says that at no time do I think App would lose until the fumble, which it did kind of feel like that, especially when they completed the pass. I was like, he's going all the way.
Yeah.
Never got the crowd into it. I think that 14-0 start, I mean, it absolutely killed some of the momentum.
It sucked the life out of the stadium and out of the team, because they felt like, here we go again. We got to climb this big ass hill again offensively, and we can't jump out ahead the way that we typically or normally do. And it's just unfortunate, man, because we've got the team to be successful, to be at the top of the conference. Again, like I said, we should be undefeated. So it's unfortunate the mental lapses, and some of it has been the mistakes that we've made on the field, and some of it has just been, and I'll be frank, some of it has been coaching.
Right.
You can't, some of the way we played against ULM, and I can't remember the game before who we did end up losing to.
Wyoming.
Yep. Playing to to not lose. And just running the ball on 3rd and long and those kinds of things. I mean, that's scared coaching, and as much as I love our former App alums that come and coach here, there's a way that we do things. And when we play football, that's not how we did it. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. With so much more I could say.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And I think people, understand that sentiment and understand it even more after last night. And, I don't know if you saw the meme or the picture. I guess Drake wore out some kind of App State, like old school sweater underneath some big fur coat for like a concert. And
I did not see it. No.
Ever since he's worn that out, either in public or to a concert or something, App State's only 5-5 overall.
Yeah, see, I don't want Drake doing anything with us or for
Stay away from our team, Drake.
He did the same thing to Kentucky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
So,
and I think Justin Bieber does the same thing to the Maple Leafs in hockey. So,
just leave us alone.
Blake comes in again. The Rock is hell anytime. How long did it take Southern? I don't know how long it took Southern, but that's a matchup, right? I mean, TJ, you played against those teams. I mean, it was hell both ways. I think you guys probably didn't enjoy playing down there unless you won the game, right?
Yeah, going down to Statesville, I mean, it's blow for blow, basically all the way up until the last whistle blows. I mean, it was a game every single time. As a matter of fact, I remember my junior year, we were undefeated at home for 2 years in a row, and Georgia Southern came and beat us at home, and ended our home win streak.
That was 07, right?
Yep, 07. Mm-hmm.
I remember that game very vividly.
Yeah.
And I remember
because we beat Michigan, and then we lost to Wofford and Georgia Southern that year, and then still went on to win a national championship in a very improbable way, right? Because remember, James Madison could have and should have been in the national championship.
Yes. Well, they should. I mean, that was only a first-round game, right? Or was it a second?
It's first-round game. First-round game.
Unbelievable.
And they could have put us away. And thanks to Jock Roman, they did not.
And thanks to Mickey
Pierre
Mouse.
Banks.
Mickey Mouse, or what was that guy's name? The big coach that they had. It was Mickey something.
I can't remember his name.
Oh man, I'm going blank. If anyone that's watching knows his name, Mickey something. But anyway, yeah. Just like the Cristobal situation at Miami, you do not need to run the ball. Just center it, take a knee, and they decided to try and grab some more yards, and Jock made them pay. Man, that was one of the coolest moments because, really, people talk about not many people in attendance. That was one of those Thanksgiving weekend games all the time, right?
Yep.
And there was next to nobody there. I mean, it was lucky to be 10,000 people.
I was going to say it might have been 10 to 12,000 people there. That's at max.
It was freezing cold. That was one of the times. It's crazy to think about this now with how the student section looked every week. There was hardly anybody in the student section. Me and my buddy took his whole family into the student section. We had all kinds of space to move around. That doesn't happen anymore. But anyway, those were
that would never happen.
But the coolest part was, and you'll know this too, those 10 to 12,000 that were there are the craziest of the crazy, the loudest of the loud. So
it was still so loud. It was still a great atmosphere. And when we picked up that fumble, or when Pierre jumped on that fumble, it was deafening. They were at their capacity at that point. I mean, one of the most fun games I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree with that one. I was indirectly a part of it, probably being in the crowd for that one. But
yeah, you were there.
We'll take a look at this play from last night. This is Coastal's second touchdown. And you're going to be looking up here at the top of the screen. Defensively,
bunch of nonsense. That's what you're
Mountaineers. We'll look at it full speed as we usually do the first go around. And TJ, I'll let you take
I won't even say anything at first. I'll let the first play run, because anybody with eyeballs can see what just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, what in the world are we looking at? And it looks like we're in cover 2 here, right? It looks like we're in cover 2. We've got outside. He's got a little bit of inside leverage. The corner does. I don't blame the corner so much as I do the safety, because if it's cover 2, first of all, why are your eyes in the backfield? Why are you stepping up on a run action play when there's not even play action to your side? There's no play action to your side of the field, right? You're stepping up for what? For what? That makes no sense at all to me. There is zero reason that the corner and safety should even have their eyes in the backfield at that point. Yeah, unless those guys come up to stalk block them, and then your eyes go to the backfield to check for run.
Right.
Apart from that, there's no reason for. I don't understand. This is what we're talking about. The mental mistakes that we talked about on Monday night, and I mean, I've never seen it. I don't think I've ever even seen that before, ever.
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen that before in my life. That's inexplicable.
So here the linebackers get pulled out, and the middle linebacker actually comes across and covers the guy. Maybe that's Bennett there in the backfield. I can't tell.
So they're running a Tampa 2. The middle linebacker is going to run with the seam route down the middle.
So he's got this covered. So if they're biting on that guy, why the hell are you biting there? Because this guy's got his assignment taken care of. If he's here in the middle of the field, if he's here in the middle of the field and he hasn't moved, or he's blitzing or dropping into coverage, then I can at least understand their thought process. But you've got now 2 guys. We'll let it roll from there, because
I just don't understand. I don't understand what somebody's going to have to call me and explain to me what this play call was, because if I'm looking at it again now, it looks 2 to the wide side of the field, and then it looks like it's man down at the boundary. Because if you look here at the bottom of the screen, it looks like our safety is going to be playing that tight end, or linebacker is going to be playing that tight end man to man. There's going to be a good jam, and I don't see him drop to a zone, right? So you see the safety coming up. I don't see him drop to a zone. I don't know. I don't know what defense that is. I've never seen
about this. You've got Favors here holding his head. Like you said, you're almost kind of admitting some kind of fault there.
He knows because he's supposed to have nobody deeper than me, deeper than the deepest man, nobody on top of me, whatever phraseology you want to use.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be behind him at all.
Right.
And then he got hit with an energy drink, didn't he? What happened there?
Somebody, I don't know. Did you see the thing that's going viral a little bit now? There was more trash, unfortunately, by our fans thrown towards Coastal's players after the game. And one of the linemen picks up one of the beers or whatever it is. And I don't even know if there was anything in it, but he at least insinuates that he's drinking out of it. So
yeah, well, we got to stop that. Stop that nonsense. There's no reason for us to act like that. We haven't acted like that in the past. That's not who we are. Cut that nonsense out. That's ridiculous.
Unfortunately, in that area, it's high student population that's going to be taken over there. There's not a whole lot of adults who are going to be supervising those kids and saying, "Hey, knock it the hell off. Don't do that."
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I saw a security guard last night taking a hit of a vape besides the kids that are in there. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to be vaping in the stadium at all.
I'm 100% positive you're not supposed to be vaping in the football game.
Yeah.
100% positive.
Those are the little things, right? Like, yeah, it's a small, minor thing. But like, if you're doing it now, all these kids are just saying, well, I'm just going to do it because this guy's doing it. So
right. And everybody's drunk. Everybody's outside of their mind. Nobody's thinking clearly. But that kind of trash, that can't happen.
Now, I will say, as I did walk around to the other side of the stadium at one point to grab some food, and I saw some Coastal fans walking through, and pretty much the kids ignored them. So good. I mean, that's what you want. Yeah. Like if you're not going to be nice to them, then just ignore them. Don't
you don't have to, just don't be a butthole, right? Like don't and certainly don't throw things onto the field when the players are playing. Like come on. Let's not be that school, guys. We haven't historically been that school in the past, and that's not a tradition or name we should be happy or proud to be a part of. I mean, that's insane. That's nonsense, and it's childish. So let's cut that nonsense out.
Yeah, we did have that incident with Marshall. That's as bad as it gets. Hopefully that they've done stuff to alleviate that. Now they need to do something more to alleviate the kind of stuff we saw last night. You should be thrown out for throwing trash on the field. You should be thrown out of the stadium. Yeah, get it out of there. We don't need that. Yeah, start pointing them out. If you are fans of any team, doesn't matter if it's App State or not. If you're fans of any team, you see behavior like that, just tell people to knock it off. And you don't have to curse at them and get physical with them. It's literally simple. You say it, there's going to be other people that are going to feel the need to step up and agree with you. So please
find an authority figure, find security, find somebody, let them know, hey, this person's throwing trash. I mean, that's not who we want to be. And really, like you said, any school, doesn't matter that it's App State, doesn't matter who it is. I mean, we've gone to several stadiums and we've seen nonsense happen. I mean, the Jets were throwing batteries at Santa. So it happens, right? I mean, it's everywhere, but like, don't be better. Be better. It's exactly what I was about to say. Be better. So anyway, this is our father talk. You can tell we both have kids.
Now that we've experienced all the highs and lows of fatherhood, these are the things that we know now more than we did back then. So just listen to us. We do know what we're talking about to that extent. And as far as knowing what we're talking about, TJ is going to talk to us about this next clip from the Old Dominion Southern Miss game. Again, this was okay. So it would have made it 17-10, not 17-0, but
still pretty sizable advantage.
Right, and we just had a little glitch up there, but this will run through. First of all, human joystick, but also, as you said, TJ, some pretty terrible tackling from the Monarchs.
So initially, to my untrained eye, I thought it was terrible tackling. However, when we roll the clip back, you'll see why.
Right,
you're looking at a team who thought he had waved for a fair catch signal. And obviously, I'm sure everyone watching, whether you're a casual fan or not, you can't fake a fair catch. That's just So you'll see his. I think it's on this clip. Looks like he jumped past it a little bit.
It just keeps
his
right hand
goes up, and normally when he's waving off a Peter call, his hands are out in front of him. Right, he's waving almost like an incomplete pass. In this situation, his hands did not do that. He went here, and anytime that the palm of that hand or the baseline of that hand or wrist goes over your shoulder pads, they're going to call that a fair catch. And they do that so that there's no accidents, right? They want to make sure player safety is important, and they want to make sure. And you'll see, just like I said in that clip, there was no.
Saw the tail end of it, but they're going to show it here another time or two, much better, because I was going nuts, not going nuts, not my team. I wasn't losing my mind, but I was like, man, I can't believe they just took that touchdown away from that kid, because he did not put his hand clearly over his head. Now, when we were talking about this, going over this, that's not my area of expertise. I don't know what's going on with this clip here now. Let's see if it cleans itself up here. Sometimes with these ESPN Plus things, you got to let it roll a little bit. All right, let's see if we can see it from this angle. Yeah, here it goes. So yeah, he gives a little bit of a quick, like you said, the palm.
And anytime, like you said, anytime the palm or that wrist is even with his shoulder pads, they're going to assume that that's a fair catch call, because they would rather err on the side of caution than not. So he, and also too, it discourages faking the call. You can't do that. True. It's like what's his name for the Steelers when he was with Pitt faking the slide? Kenny Pickett.
Yes.
I mean, come on, man. You can't do that. We got these rules in place for your safety. Don't abuse it.
Yeah. Now, the part that does confuse me is they called it a touchdown on the field.
Right. Well,
I guess it's a reviewable play, though, huh?
I was here to say all scores are reviewable, so they're going to let it run because they'd rather, again, safe than sorry, right? If you call it dead, then it's dead. You call that play dead, it's not reviewable at that point.
Gotcha.
But if you let it run, all scores are reviewable. So, there's that element to it as well, that you can always come back and review that play. So they did that for good reason. But yeah, it's clearly a illegal procedure or whatever it is they call it. I can't even. I don't think it's unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question, because they called this against App last night, and it was probably clearer on the broadcast than it was in person. But they called disconcerting signal.
Yes.
Now, is that maybe the same call? Because that was who was it?
So
somebody on the defensive. It was actually like somebody in the secondary.
Safety. It was a safety. He came down. He was clapping. Yeah, to simulate a snap. I don't know if that was I don't know if that was his intent.
Right.
And it's hard to judge intent, which is why you throw the flag anyway, because intent doesn't matter in those situations. You did it, and that's all. It's like running a red light. I don't care that you didn't mean to run it. You still ran a red light.
I got
so you can't clap when that's what the other team's using for their signal, right?
Got you. Yeah.
Which, if you're a clapper, that sucks for you. But if you're not,
if you're trying to get the crowd going. But I mean, if you're trying to get the crowd going within a second or two of the snap, you're not doing your job either, probably.
That is also the case. So,
they're probably going, I know what this kid's doing.
Right. There really isn't any reason for there to be defensively you clapping before a snap count.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and that's why disconcerting signals. That's why that. So that is a little bit different than this, though, because this is just a fake signal. Right. So it's more unsportsmanlike conduct than it is, I guess, you can false start or offsides or whatever, illegal procedure type deal. This is more abusing a rule.
Yeah. Which, again, like you said, it was more like trying to get through a yellow light quickly and going through red. Like I don't think he was trying to fake anybody out. I think he was in between, maybe like, I'm not gonna.
Right.
Well, you can't do that. So, all right. So you changed my mind on that, because I even put a tweet out, I think, that said, they just robbed this kid of his second touchdown, punt return of the night.
Right.
Anyways.
Yeah, you can't. You can't.
Yeah. And once I see that better viewpoint and you talking about it, now I understand more clearly. Bottom line is, don't punt the damn ball to Mims, because he will make you pay.
Yeah. That's if we can take anything away from this, don't punt the ball to Mims.
No, don't do it. Well, I mean, I'd like to see it, right? I mean, he's fun to watch, but if you're on the other side of the ball, definitely don't punt to Mims.
Yeah, don't punt it to him.
Speaking of not giving the ball to somebody, well, they did give the ball to Rasheen Ali, but NC State made it look like he almost scored a touchdown in this next play here, and it was a point of big contention on both sides of the fan bases in the stadium this past Saturday there in Raleigh. We'll see what we're talking about here as Fancher hands the ball off on a 3rd and 10. It's like these calls that we've talked about before, TJ.
Yeah, these 3rd and 10 calls, they make me crazy running the ball. But in this case, it almost worked out. However, It's coming back because there was a top of ankle, shin, whatever called down. Would you and I agree that it is very hard to see, at least from the angle that we have? Look at that right leg. They said the right shin hit down. There was no other part of this player on the ground.
Nope, definitely not any other
this
part.
This might be the best angle that we have, and even that is still, to me, inconclusive. But
and
I'm also
that's
why,
right, and that's why I was a little surprised in the stadium. They showed it on the big board, that same look there and the first one where you saw it kind of from as he's like running at you, that kind of look.
Right.
And the same kind of thing happened. The shin, ankle portion that they were. Yeah.
With the time of day it was, the shadow, you can't see the ground, right? Like you don't know if that's his leg or if that's just a dark part of the shadow. Like it should have been, it should have been called stands as not being able to reverse because like we talked about before we came on, reversing the call means that there's inconclusive evidence.
Correct.
And I don't see it. So unless they have an angle that we're not seeing here, I don't see any way that his right shin, or I guess they called it above the ankle, was down.
Yeah. And that would be my argument. Honestly, when they showed it, I never even thought about the shin. I thought it was like the knee. At the moment, I'm not thinking about that. Obviously, I know, that the whole leg can't be down on the ground, even if his knee's not touching. But in that moment, I'm just looking like his knee never touched. And he obviously doesn't touch here with he's on his back and his butt. How do you land like that, first of all?
Believe it or not, it happens more times than you think. I've done it once, and I've seen it a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Well, let me rephrase. I've seen it, a couple times a year throughout my years watching football. So, like, maybe once or twice a year in the past 20 years that I've been, like, able to actually watch football and not be playing it.
Right. Got you. Yeah, it's as soon as they show this in the stadium, NC State fans are all, wow, he's down, his knee touch. And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, look, I'm just an outside observer in this game.
I got no dog in this fight.
Yeah, I looked at the State fan in the face and I said, he never touched. Man, that's incredible. He never touched. Right. And like you said, unless they had a different view, that's, by the way, we'll end the clips here because we know that the call was ultimately reversed, and he wouldn't have been in the end zone anyway. He did step out, but he would have had the first down, so it could have been a game
and also that's
stuff.
3 points ultimately.
Yeah. So and I'll bring this up, and it's probably a little different because it's ACC here in this one, but when we're at games, paying customers, NFL, college, to me, it doesn't even matter the sport. It could be hockey too. Baseball, whoever reviews things anymore, which is I think pretty much every major league. Including the NBA. If we are paying customers, I expect to see every damn look that these referees are seeing in that little box. Because why do people at home who didn't pay a admission to get into the game see 30 angles, and in the stadium they show it one time real quick and then they take it away? I'm so mad about that.
Don't tell me anything about that. Well, there was an angle that the refs had that we couldn't see. No, show it to me. Show it to me, because I deserve to see. I need to see what you're seeing, because while I don't get paid to do your job, I am helping pay for your job. So show me what you need to show me. I get it. Listen, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. So
because then I just walk away feeling robbed. I feel like it was cheap. I don't know. I just have to trust your word, and humans are not historically trustworthy. So you got to tell me something. You got to tell me something better than just trust me. It's all good, bro.
Also, with today's day and age, there's betting on the line. You better be showing everybody the proof in what you've called here. Otherwise, they're going to start legitimately asking questions of your officiating crews for your sport. It's already happening anyway.
It can get dangerous too.
Yeah,
I don't need to go any further into detail than that, but it can get dangerous for these officials.
Yeah.
So you better be wanting to make the right damn call, or somebody might be knocking at your door.
Yeah, very, very true. All right, so that does it for our wrap-up and the little recap from last night, as well as TJ's clip breakdowns. We'll take a little break with a quick ad from Dano's Seasoning. and we'll be right back to preview this coming weekend's action in the Sun Belt.
Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some.
Dano Seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe, we all know you're the best.
What?
But you can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
All right. There we are with our famous Dano's seasoning ad that we love so much.
Yeah, dancing chickens.
Yeah. Very, very true there. So taking a look at this weekend's matchups, we've got a couple. Really, just about every matchup is phenomenal. I'd say the only one that you're probably not putting high on your docket really is Monroe versus Texas State because of what has just happened with both of those teams and differing degrees, obviously. But I think we spoke about this. Our game of the weekend is definitely Georgia Southern versus James Madison. Eagles come in 4-1. James Madison comes in a perfect 5-0. Obviously, Southern's got a little bit more of a tougher. I would say that the schedule is tougher overall for Georgia Southern so far, especially with the Power 5 opponent. I mean, Virginia's not very good. Georgia Southern saw a much better Wisconsin team up there on the road, which James Madison was a short bus trip away from Virginia. So it's not like they had a big time airplane flight and different type of weather to kind of think about and deal with like the Eagles did up there in Wisconsin. But what do you think of this one? A 12 o'clock kickoff on ESPN2. James Madison favored by 6 points right now. TJ, who are you leaning for? Who are you leaning towards in this one so far?
I'm going to take I'm going to take James Madison. I trust him, especially at home. 12 o'clock game. I'm gonna trust James Madison to, especially as well as they've been playing defensively up front. They've been able to stop the run. They've been great against the pass. I mean, they've got the size to do it. I think personally, Georgia Southern they played well in spots, right?
Yeah.
They haven't been great all year. And I think James Madison has been more consistent than Georgia Southern to this point. Both have athletic quarterbacks, both have great run games, both have, excellent size outside of the receiver spot. So it's a pretty even matchup on paper. I just think based on what I've seen so far, the more consistent team, the team that I know that I'm going to get the most out of, or at least I know what I can expect the most out of, is James Madison. Now, that's not to say that that Georgia Southern couldn't go in there and completely put on their A game and win it, right? Because they're capable of doing that.
Which we saw last year.
Right. They're very much capable of winning. I just think JMU right now is the more consistent team. And if I got to bet my money, I'm betting my money on the team that I know does the same thing every week.
Very true. And I think the most interesting aspect to me on this one is the fact that they both had transfer quarterbacks last year. They both have transfer quarterbacks this year. And they're not the same of the ones that they had last year. And so to me, I thought there's no way Georgia Southern can get some kid to come in there and replicate what Van Treese did last year, right? There's going to be more stuff on film for these teams to have on these guys and be ready for. And McLeod, the same thing with JMU. I just didn't think they were going to replace the production. And he's not the same player that they had last year. But, I mean, they're both still phenomenal athletes. They're excelling at the quarterback position. And Bryn's been very impressive. Van Treese had a little bit of an interception issue, too. So it's kind of interesting that Bryn had that one game that was pretty bad. But other than that, you take away those 5 in that game, he's had 7 for the season overall. So it's only 2 other interceptions. So pretty phenomenal. I think the biggest difference, and you mentioned this earlier in the episode, in this matchup is going to be JMU's front 4.
Yes.
Or front 7, really, because their offense allows so little rushing yards. They average less than 40. They allow their opponents to average less than 40 yards rushing per game. That's insanity.
Yeah, that's nuts. Well, and they've got, like you said, they've got the size. The defensive ends are absolute monsters. They do a lot of stunting. They don't have to stunt as much because they win the one-on-one matchup a lot. They've won it a lot against, especially against Virginia. They won it a whole lot. But I mean, look how big Brown is. I mean, like you said, they've got size at every position. You know, they're good enough everywhere, and they're consistent weekly. So I think, really, quite honestly, right now, I think JMU is certainly the best team in Virginia. I don't think it's quite honestly, I don't think it's close.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, it's hard for Georgia Southern because you got Georgia in there, and then you had Georgia Tech just beating Miami. So, you know, that's a tough call in Georgia. But yeah, absolutely, JMU is clearly the best team in Virginia.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see here. Sorry, I was trying to bring up another clip here, and it was kind of glitching up on me just like it did before. So trying to get back to what we had. So we got Troy and Army coming up as well. They just played last season, which was the first time they ever matched up. And let's see. As I bring this up, I think that score was 10-9. Can you believe that? 10-9.
That was a very close game last year. Yeah, we actually watched that with my dad.
Oh yeah, because he was in the Army, right?
No. My brother is in the Navy, and we were sort of calling back and forth. He hates Army's football team, obviously, and so we were kind of going. And I wanted Troy to win just because of the conference and that kind of thing. So we're both kind of all three of us are rooting for Troy in this game for different reasons. Gotcha.
Yeah, and this year Troy's obviously lost to James Madison earlier, and they had the was it Ole Miss that they played earlier? I'm trying to bring it up right now.
Mm-hmm. Ole Miss, yep.
No, it was Kansas State. I think Ole Miss was last year. That's why we're thinking Ole Miss. But K-State, who K-State's not what they were last year, so it doesn't look as okay of a loss as it did when they first took it. But I mean, we watched a little bit of that game. K-State they did play well in that one.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, Army looked pretty good to start the year, but then kind of came back down to earth here lately, and they're only 2-3 overall. Troy's favored by only 4.5 points. So somewhere somebody thinks Army's going to control the clock with their, option run game,
the option run game. Yeah. And that offense bothers me so much.
Yeah. I think the other thing that you got to look at here is obviously this was from last year. And so this game was at Troy. This one will be in Army at West Point. I guess they're giving them a good home field advantage there with only giving Troy 4.5. I'd go with a lot more than that. I mean, this Troy offense is vastly improved from last season. So
yeah, and I think if they played anything like they played last week defensively, they'll neutralize Army and really be able to sort of take advantage of any sort of mistake that Army made. I mean, Army throws the ball like 4 times a game. So you get them in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, you pretty much win the game.
Oh, am I glitching up? Might have too many things running here in the background now.
Oh, maybe so. I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you. I think I was losing everything over here on my side, but I think we're getting. I'm closing off some tabs as we move on from them, so that hopefully it doesn't continue happening this way. But yeah, going back now that we're away from that to the next matchup here, we've got Marshall versus Georgia State, a matchup that before this past week would have looked a lot better. But unfortunately, they both just suffered their first losses before coming into this one. I guess Georgia State's loss was actually the week prior, really. But, what do you think on these two teams that looked really good to start the year and have kind of not necessarily fallen back down because they're still both 4-1? But, I mean,
taking some lumps, right? Both teams are taking some lumps. I think Marshall certainly should have and could have beat NC State. We talked about it earlier. I picked NC State to win. Wasn't surprised by the game being as close as it was. I was surprised by how high scoring it was. But I do think that, if I had to pick an edge, I think Georgia State has the edge in this game. They've got a more athletic quarterback. That said, Marshall's, running back is, Ali is really, really good. So, run game, I think Marshall's going to do well. I also, like I just said, but I think Georgia State is going to make some bigger splash plays because of the athleticism that they have at quarterback.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I think it was weird to watch that game there in Raleigh, and I thought I was pretty impressed with Fancher overall. I didn't think he was kind of the cause of any issues with the game. I mean, maybe he's not the best quarterback I've ever seen, and definitely was not, but it's like you said, you score that many points, you got every opportunity to win the game. So I don't think, when I saw some Marshall fans putting it on Fancher for the loss, I just disagree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, your defense has got to come up with some more stops. If you're going to come back and say that the quarterback was a bigger reason that you lost the game than your defense, I got to question what you're looking at there. Again, could he have made a couple better things? Sure. There was one pass near the end of the game, phenomenal throw to where only the receiver could get it. In fact, the NC State guy dives, and in college, I think you know this. I definitely know this because I've seen it enough now. You do not have to turn around as the defensive back. In pros, you have to turn around. You have to make an attempt to turn around.
You can't face guard in the NFL, but in college, you don't have to turn around. However, it does make it easier to call pass interference if you aren't.
Yes. So in this particular play, I'm pretty sure the defensive back was just totally sprawled out, just as far as he could, but he never turned around. And I thought initially that it hit him in the back, and otherwise it would have hit the Marshall receiver in the chest. Well, it turns out it hit the Marshall receiver like almost in the shoulder. He had every opportunity to catch it, even with the great defensive play by the NC State player. And that was before they were down by 14. I think they were only down 7 at that point, so that would have tied the game. So, I mean, there's a game changer right there, and that was Fancher's arm that would have put you there. All the wide receiver had to do was catch it, and I don't even remember who it was. Doesn't matter at this point. Didn't make the catch, so moving on. But, I mean, we got 2 phenomenal quarterbacks that are going to be going head-to-head in this one, so I think this one's going to be good. It's just who limits the mistakes more, I guess, right?
I was just getting ready to say, this game is a game of mistakes, game of inches. It's almost impossible to play this game perfectly, right?
Right.
So who's better at taking advantage of the other team's mishaps? And that's what it's going to come down to. And somebody's going to slip up. There's going to be a bust in coverage. There's going to be a missed tackle. Who's going to take advantage of what and when? And at what moment of the game will this happen? So that's what it's going to come down to. If I got to pick a team, the way Georgia State's been playing, but again, I say that, but so is Marshall. I mean, Marshall's been playing great too. So it's hard to say at this point who's who. But I'm going to take Georgia State because I'm a homer, and I'm gonna big up Sean Elliott any chance I get. So shout out to Coach Elliott. So I'm gonna go with Georgia State.
There you go. Yeah, this is a tough one because I think Georgia State is kind of the team I thought they would be last year. I don't know if I told you this, but I picked Georgia State to finish second in the Sun Belt East last year. I thought App would be better than they were. So I did pick very incorrectly that App State would be number 1. But I did pick Georgia State to be number 2. And it looks more like, not necessarily be correct or anything, but it'd be more correct this year, possibly, I guess. So I don't know. Oh man, like, you go to a game, you just get kind of won over, I feel like, or you get totally the opposite. But there was nothing in this Marshall game that made me, think that they weren't going to be a pretty good team overall for the season. So I'm going to say, I just saw the Thunder and Herd. I'll stick with them. I think Owen Porter can be a difference maker on the defensive end, defensive backfield. I mean, he's a linebacker, right? So his pressure, he had a pretty good game against NC State, but not the greatest. So I think he could play even better, and probably that defense probably doesn't play as bad. So offensively, they're probably going to be pretty consistent because they've been pretty consistent across the board so far this year. I'll take Marshall just to mix it up. Just we'll go back and forth on that one.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, and Georgia State, actually, to your credit, is favored by 1 point in that one. ESPN2 game. This is
at this point, if you're favored by 1 point, you might as well not even be favored.
Yeah, toss a coin up, right? Yeah. So this is, I think I talked about this last week, but I was incorrect. It's this week that every game is on a major network. So App and Coastal last night was on ESPN2, Georgia Southern, James Madison, ESPN2, Troy, Army, CBS Sports. That's a 3:30 kickoff. And then we've got the game we just talked about, Marshall, Georgia State, ESPN2 as well, 7 o'clock kickoff. And this last game here, there wasn't any highlights from just last week for these two teams, but ULM is going to go up against Texas State on ESPN Plus at 7 o'clock. Texas State, though, favored by 16 points. I guess. Could it be more, though? I mean, look, South Alabama just put up 55.
I was just getting ready to say they got 55 hung on them. I wouldn't be surprised if they got 40 hung on them by Texas State, especially what Texas State has done. Again, one of those teams where
the Baylor highlights, right?
Yeah, one of those. As I'm watching Baylor, or the Baylor highlights, it makes me feel like they could hang 100 on them if they wanted to. But then you go against Southern Miss, and I don't know who you are. So
yeah, very true.
I don't. I am picking Texas State to win this sizably, at least cover the spread. But like you said, it could be much worse. Should be much worse.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think that I think we'll see a strong Texas State team. I mean, rebounding after that loss that they didn't think they should have versus the Cajuns. I'm sure you only lose by 4 points. You always think you're in that one to win it.
Right.
And again, we're watching highlights here in the background of them versus Baylor. They can get it done. So it's just what team shows up for ULM. Because if ULM plays more like they did against App State, you've got a game that could be at least closer, and that may be why they're looking at that 16-point spread.
Right.
But, historically, we know what ULM does, which is finish towards the bottom of the West, which is interesting because Texas State does too. But this new coach, Coach Kenny, seems to have turned the program around. Yeah. Seems to have turned it around and got them going on the right foot. One of their better looking seasons in their, it seems like forever, really. I think really since their FCS days when they really had a season like this last. Ever since they moved up, they haven't had much success. So it's about time. They're in the right spot, in the right location to be a hell of a football program. They've got great facilities. I mean, I've seen all kinds of stuff from their stadium. I know some people that have been to the games down there. Very impressive from what I hear all around, not just the football, but in general, their facilities are really fantastic. But we know how much Texas loves to spend on football, right?
I was just going to say you're in Texas, so you got to. Worst, you got to be better than the high schools. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some of those high schools look like JUCOs.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that pretty much rounds it up for our Sun Belt look for this coming week. You got any other quick hits you want to talk about? I know that.
You talked or you touched on it a little bit ago. Miami and Georgia Tech. What the hell was the problem there? What was he thinking about?
And honestly, we have to. You know this just as well, if not better, than everybody that's listening and watching right now. So there's multiple people really ultimately that are responsible for this because everyone's putting it on crystal ball, but someone's looking at that and saying he doesn't even call the plays. He's not the offensive coordinator. So offensive coordinator is one that's like, what were you doing? And then I'm listening to XM radio and they're saying. In the NFL level, there's guys that are like specific to that's not their job, right? But like a special teams coordinator who's not got a lot to do in those situations, that becomes their job at that time. You better be counting the clock and putting it up against one another and figuring out what the hell is about to happen. And you let me know what I need to do.
Yeah. So, at the same time, though, Cristobal, listen, you approve the play at the end of the day.
Right.
You know that you've got 20 some odd seconds left. Bro, just take a knee. The game's over. Like, you don't have to do anything else. Just take a knee. Just take a knee. I don't know. That's borderline a fireable offense.
Yeah.
It's borderline fireable because that's insane. You're ranked 17th in the country and you lose to Georgia Tech on basically a technicality because you're an idiot.
Also, he was down before he fumbled, though.
He was down.
Can we agree on that?
But here's the thing, though. You don't even let it get to that.
Yep. You don't let it
shouldn't
get
even
to
have
that.
gotten to that.
That's true.
You don't leave it in the hands of the officials when you've got the game already won. Just win it.
Right.
Just go win it. Just take the snap and fall down.
If he wasn't down and that was a real fumble, then Ali was never down either, and that should have been a first down for Marshall.
True story. True story.
I think that's what I mean. And covering a bigger aspect of everything is like the inconsistency of refereeing across the board, right?
Right.
I mean, you've got two very similar plays right there that we just spoke about. It's like, where's the conclusive evidence? It looked like there was some for the other one that didn't get reversed, and then there was some for the, it's just, I don't know. I mean, somebody up in a booth just is making all these calls because, I mean, like last night at the App game against Coastal, they're not even looking at anything, right? I mean, App either doesn't have the technology or the Sun Belt doesn't give it to them or ESPN doesn't allow them to. The head referee, all he had last night was what I'm wearing now, which is a headset and a mic.
Right, and he's just listening to whoever else is looking at it, which, whatever, that's fine. Right. If they're making the right call, I don't care.
Correct.
What I care about is being accurate and also just being smart. Like, that just wasn't smart.
Right.
It just was not. Like, my son knows to take a knee when the game's over. What are we doing? What are we talking about? So that was the only extra point I had. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought that, it should absolutely have been a Miami win, and it turned out to be not that. Yeah. And not that in a very painful way. Very painful way.
Yeah, I mean, you got to feel bad for the players, and you've been there, so you probably feel it more than I do. But
I've never been there.
Well,
never been in. That's never happened. But no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, you see those kids. I mean, you could read some lips of what those kids were saying and thinking on the sideline.
Yeah,
a season of hope and a lot of promise almost ended just because of one loss and the way you did it.
Yeah. Now they got to go undefeated the rest of the year, and that's going to be hard because they've got. Yeah. Have they played Florida State yet?
No.
So they've got Florida State. Mm-hmm. Then they've got Clemson, who they haven't played yet. Yep. And those are 2 L's right there.
I mean, I believe. Oh, let me see if I can pull this up. I believe they play UNC this weekend.
Yeah, they do. That's also L. Okay. So that's 3 losses.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
I'm definitely going to watch that game.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a good one, man. I'll say this: as much as I hate UNC, and I always have, and I always will, I usually say they're vastly overrated, and I don't understand why. Well, this is the first time in a very long time they may not be damn overrated.
Yeah, they actually might be rated. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. Blake says he's fixing to rewatch the App Coastal game again so I can savor it. Great shows, guys, when you spread the word. Well, Blake, I don't know if we can agree with the Hail Southern sentiment, but we do really appreciate you tuning in and making this show a lot more fun. Thanks for the comments, man, as we went along tonight. We hope to continue to do this and continue getting better at it, picking up some more sponsors along the way so we can just improve across the board for everybody who's watching.
And I'll continue to wear cartoon shirts.
Yeah, there we go. TJ, I have one more thing for the extra point. So did you see the clip breakdown of how the Vikings got screwed against the Chiefs in the NFL and like the 3 missed calls? Did you see this clip that's kind of going around?
I did not see it.
Okay, so
I did hear. So I was watching First Take today, and I did hear about. I don't know if you know Mad Dog Chris Russo. He goes on his Wednesday rants. What is Mad Dog mad about today? And he was talking about the calls with because it's been a trending thing, right? Like it's been not just this week, but it's been the past couple of weeks that Kansas City has gotten some questionable calls.
Yes.
And but I didn't see the game, or I was flicking through and I've got like 4 games going on at once, so I'm not watching every play of every game.
You have a wall of TVs, TJ. Just say it. Just a wall of TVs.
I have lots of TVs, and I have lots of games going on at one time. I like football.
we pay this man too much. No, I'm just kidding. We don't pay either of us anything. Hopefully that will change one day. But yeah,
Yes.
no, it was, I guess it was the 4th and 12 situation, pretty much a last ditch effort for the Vikings to throw. Essentially, it was closer than a Hail Mary, but throwing it up to try to tie this game up. There was, I believe, a flag for what looked like a late hit. There was a flag for what looked like pass interference, which they showed a close-up clip of. He was at least holding, if you're not going to call pass interference. And then clearly after that flag was thrown, the Chiefs player takes his helmet off.
I did see that. He took his helmet off. Yeah.
They picked up all 3 flags and called.
Well, and you could see the ref even mouth to him, "Put your helmet back on."
Yes.
Like at this point, it either is a penalty or it's not. Like you can't.
Right.
There's no gray area. There's not up to interpretation. I think Tony Romo was actually on that call.
Oh, okay. Also,
this
is the NFL. This isn't some like.
Yeah, you're not a child, bro. Leave your helmet on.
Well, that and like the referees thinking that not everybody in the world isn't going to see this interaction. They're going to see it. They saw it. Like you can't just bypass this and be like, "Oh no, I didn't see it." You know what I mean? Like, what? You can't hide this stuff.
It's the NFL script writers, man.
Yep. all going. It's the Swift effect.
That's what it is. That's what it is. They had all this planned.
Yep. But anyway, those are the things I just wanted to talk because it also relates back to college football with the officiating question marks and.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you this. I never officiated football. I don't know.
I haven't either. It seems tough.
Football. Yeah, it does. It does. Definitely seems tough. I did officiate soccer. That was my sport growing up, so I knew that one pretty well. And so I understand why there is inconsistencies, right? It's not easy.
Sure.
There's human error at the speed of the game. When I do it, I never had instant replay, right? So there's an element of that too. But there's still got to be some way to make it better, right? And I don't know what exactly the answer is because I know these guys do.
The next step is going to be make every call reviewable. And that's going to open a can of worms because now I think you get 2 challenges, 1 per half. Now you're going to have to add 2 or 3 challenges per half. And then that with 2 or 3 timeouts. I mean, you're looking at it's already a 3.5 hour football game. Now you're talking 4.5 hours. We don't have that kind of time.
Nope. You know
unless
who does
you're
have
start
that
games at noon, and then then at 4, and then at 8. So
right, I think the only people that's going to like more time at football games, sponsors. They have more ads, but the rest of us will not like that. And if you honestly though, I'll make a concession. If they bring down the prices at the concession stands and bring down the prices of these streaming services, I'll gladly take a longer football game with more ad dollars.
Absolutely, because I always want more football. I just don't want more of the same football.
Yes. I will say, though, that I can't stand how much the game gets slowed down on some of these reviews. Like, if you're looking at it 13 times, it's not conclusive. Just move on.
Yeah,
whatever you called, stick with.
Whatever you called, leave it that call.
Yes. So I don't know how you put like a stopwatch on it and say it's this every time. If it's not within a minute and a half, it's done. You stick with what you called or what. But there's got to be something to do faster reviews because it's just insanity anymore with how this stuff goes.
And I don't have time to. Yeah, we're not gonna keep doing that.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of reviews, hopefully some more people get on and review this episode after we've recorded. But we do appreciate, especially Blake tonight. I mean, he just lit up the comment board. So thank you very much, Blake, for tuning in.
Yeah, Blake, thanks, man.
Even though you're a Southern fan, we'll let it go for tonight.
Hey, it's all Sun Belt. We love you.
Yeah, no, it's all good. This is what makes it fun, right? This is why the Sun Belt has kind of become this premier G5 conference and one that we specifically talk about and try and cover. So it's enjoyable. It's fun. We'll rib each other along the way, but we'll have some fun doing it too.
Absolutely, 100%.
TJ, where can the people find you, follow you, and what you do outside of covering football here on Sunday?
Yeah, you can find my food at Thick Thighs and Large Fries on Instagram. You can also follow my personal page at Mr. Corman 12 on Instagram and also on Facebook at TJ Corman.
Very nice, man. Well, you can follow the both of us at Sunbelt Syndicate across pretty much all social platforms. I did try and get like this really long video with my action cam of the entrance last night. I'm going to try and edit that up. Maybe post that somewhere for everyone to try and check out. I got to see what it looks like. I haven't reviewed it in full yet, but hopefully that will pop up at least on the YouTubes here shortly. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you all again next week.